What's going on, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Today we are checking out the Crazy Tube Circuits White Whale. This is an all analog 3-spring reverb tank with tremolo pedal. This is a follow-up to an earlier pedal, but it has more features. As I mentioned, it has a true 3-spring reverb tank in it in a pedal-friendly size. One of the cool features about it is it has an actual power amp driving the spring reverb, as well as an emulated tube transformer saturated output section. Sounds really great. I think they went to great lengths to really cover that 60s kind of Fender reverb sound, those tube driven circuits. That's what they were going for. It also has a really nice sounding tremolo on it that allows you to choose between tube, opto, and harmonic. Both of these circuits work independently from each other, which is really nice. Let's get right into what's on top of the pedal. So on the reverb side, you have a volume control that allows you to go from unity to quite a bit hotter. It's, I believe, 20 dB of boost. We'll check that out in the demo. Right next to that is a dwell, which I don't believe was on the earlier model. That drives the input of the tank. It gives you way more feature set as opposed to just having a mix control and a set kind of dwell. So we'll get into that. The dwell sounds really good. You have a mix control that's pretty obvious. It's the amount of reverb that's mixed into the signal. And then next to that is your tone control. Only affects the reverb, so you can go from darker to really bright, splashy verbs. We'll get into that in the demo. There's a switch in the center, a 3-way switch that allows you to choose between long, medium, and short. Now, obviously, this tank remains a 3-spring, but it actually emulates more of a 2-spring when you go into the short and medium settings. On the tremolo side of the pedal, you've got volume, speed, and intensity. We all know what those do. The volume control is the same. You can go from essentially unity up to 20 dB of boost. On the left side, you have a 3-way toggle switch that allows you to choose between either tube, opto in the middle, or harmonic trem down. So up is going to be the tube setting, which is smoother. Opto is going to have a little bit more thump to it in the center. And then in the down setting is the harmonic tremolo. Right before that, you have a push button that allows you to choose in the harmonic tremolo setting between hard or soft harmonic. We'll get into how that sounds. On the other side is a 2-way switch called pre and post. This is a really important switch, and I'm glad this feature is here. It allows you to place the tremolo either before the reverb or after the reverb. So we'll get into how that sounds. You have, as I mentioned, the effects work independently from each other. So you've got a reverb switch and a tremolo switch. They're both soft touch, really high quality relays. They don't pop. It is all analog true bypass. You've got a series of input and output jacks. You obviously have your input and your output. You have an expression input for the reverb side. That's going to control the mix, so you can control that either via tap pedal or an expression pedal. You have a trem expression input. That's going to allow you via expression pedal to control the speed. You also have a remote input jack, so that's going to allow you to control this pedal via remote. So if it's in, say, a pedal board drawer, or you've got it in a loop on your pedal board, you can use remote to control that. So yeah, let's get into how this thing sounds. It's the Crazy Tube Circuits White Whale. All right, let's get into this. Here's just the guitar into the amp. And here is the White Whale. Okay, cool. Just some quick noodling to give you guys an idea of what's going on. Let's start with the reverb side of the pedal. I'm going to start it in the long setting, and then we'll kind of go through everything. I'm going to leave the tone, volume, everything where it is. Let's just listen to the mix, and then we'll go from there. So here's the mix completely off. So I've got it so we're staying pretty much unity with the volume control. I'll start rolling the mix up. So that's what the mix is doing. We're obviously blending effect into the dry signal. Okay, so I'm going to leave the mix there. Let's look at the dwell control, which is the input, as far as I understand, amplifier for the reverb. The two are going to interact. I'm going to leave the mix where it is right now, and I'll shut the dwell off. So it's smoother, but way less apparent, right? So I would have to dime the mix control to bring that out. As I turn up the dwell, it's more input into the tank. It's becoming more apparent. Even more splash, then all the way up. You know, there's interaction between the two. They obviously mix and dwell, do completely different things, but at the same time, you know, if I'm liking the dwell here, then I can back the mix off a little bit. Because it's giving the tank a different character. The reverb itself has a different character. So that's what the dwell is doing. I like it about right there and the mix it about here. Normally I'll just leave the dwell where it is and then adjust the mix accordingly. Let's listen to the tone control. Here's a tone all the way off. Tone at noon. Way more splash happening. It's quite a bit more apparent as far as the reverb goes. Even brighter. Then all the way up. So it's the same thing. It just depends on what you want or how you want the reverb to sound. I like the tone control about right there. That's kind of my favorite setting, and then I'll adjust accordingly from there. The volume control, obviously we're at unity. We can hit things harder. obviously that's an extreme setting. I'm hitting the amp really hard. As you turn the volume up like that, not only are you going to be able to drive the amp more, which I was doing, but also the reverb is going to be way more apparent. So that's a really handy thing. Once again, everything interacts. I like it just above unity. About right there, because then I can adjust accordingly. Last thing we'll look at on this side is the long, short, and medium. Right now we're long. Here's medium. Now obviously we're not changing tanks, but it's been voiced or filtered, whatever magic they do. Now it sounds like a shorter tank. A little bit smoother. Now we can go to the shortest setting. So long, medium, short. Now that short setting is going to be the least apparent in a mix. So you'd have to turn, or what I would do is turn the mix control all the way up. A little bit more dwell, and then probably a little more volume. Then it'll bring that out. Okay, so that's the reverb side. Let's listen to the trem side. I'll start in the tube setting. I'm going to keep the intensity all the way up so we can just hear what's going on. So tube, which is the smoothest setting. Now we're in opto, which is going to be slightly more choppy, but it's not going to do the hard chop thing. Okay, so we know what the sweep and the intensity are doing, or I should say speed. We know what the sweep of the speed and intensity is. Between the tube and opto, we know what's going on. Tube is smoother. Opto has a little more of kind of a thump to it. Now we'll go to the harmonic trem. So you can go between hard and soft. I really like this setting. That's what I employed in that intro song. Sounds really sweet. We know what the volume does. We can use that to go above unity as well. So that is the white whale. I think my favorite setting that I would use it for is in that long setting on this side. Oh, the one thing I do need to point out before I say that is the white whale is the pre-post. I didn't address that. There's a pre-post switch on the tremolo side, and that allows you to have the tremolo either be before or after the reverb. So in the post setting, which is awesome with the harmonic trem, that sounds really cool. And I'm one of those guys that's not a fan necessarily of my reverbs being affected that way, but something about the harmonic trem sounds great. If I were to move it to pre, now the reverb's not being affected by the trem, the harmonic trem. So it's just a really cool feature where it's more apparent for me when I, especially like an opto trem, I don't necessarily want that, especially if it's at a higher speed. That sounds cool, but it kind of goes away. It's almost like it's gated while it's while you're playing. Which I guess could be cool, but in this case, I prefer it in the presetting so that my reverb doesn't disappear. So that's a very important feature. That's a really nice feature. So if you've got any other questions about the White Whale, definitely go to Crazy Tube Circuits and check things out. And as always, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.